Assalamu alaikum. This is Shama Tuzara, and today my topic of discussion is the hypokalemia, its clinical features, its investigations, and its treatment. So it's my last video on series of videos on hypokalemia. So let's just start our video now. Starting about the clinical features. So we know that hypokalemia affects our three major excitable tissues of the body. So first were and through them we'll make all the features of it. So in the neurons, what is happening, their excitability is reduced excitability. So as a result, the clinical feature here that will appear will be that the deep tendon reflexes, they will be decreased activity of the deep tendon reflexes, decrease activity of deep tendon reflexes. First point. Second, we know that the second excitable tissue is the muscles. So same in the muscles, there is decreased excitability, and as a result, what happens is that muscles, what feature will appear in the patient, that muscle will start to become fatigued, weakness, cramps, and ultimately paralysis. So fatigue, weakness, cramps, and paralysis, these will be the changes that will be seen in the muscles of that patient. And because of this cramps and all the activity and other thing that will be seen in the patient, that there will be paralytic ileus. Now paralytic ileus can also be seen in that patient because of these cramps and all decreased activity of the muscles. Third point will be of I told you that third is cardiac muscles. Now what is happening in this cardiac muscles, very important, we have already discussed the whole ECG of cardiac muscles in detail. So what findings will be seen here, that arrhythmias can develop in the patient, and the ECG findings will be seen. That we'll discuss more in the, I've already made a whole video over it, and the briefly will be seen in the investigation corner. Now moving on to another very important point, that renals, how it will affect the kidney, because main effect is on it. What happens that this hypokalemia, it causes renal tubular damage. Now when there will be renal tubular damage, then as a result, the vasopressin sensitivity. Now what is happening, basically the renal tubules are being damaged because of hypokalemia. Their vasopressin yani ADH, means ADH sensitivity is now reduced, and because of that reduction, what happens, that nephrogenic diabetes insipidus will be developed in that patient. And the major point which I explained you this whole story for, that patient will have polyuria and polydipsia. And now I think this is clear in your mind, that why is having polyuria and polydipsia as a feature. Plus within the GIT tract, patient can have nausea and vomiting as clinical feature too. So these are all the clinical features that will be seen in that patient of hypokalemia. Moving on to our investigations. Now, what will be the clinical evaluation and how we will investigate a patient of hypokalemia? Now, here I'll just explain you all the investigations and the reasons behind them, that if we are performing that investigation, what we are trying to obtain from it. So, starting firstly, first investigation we perform is, we'll see the serum levels. We see serum potassium levels, of course, we see magnesium because it is associated with it. We see serum calcium levels, because if it's because of diuretics, if it's because of some genetic deficiencies that we discussed before, there is hypo and hypercalcemia seen in it. And we see the serum bicarb to see that whether it's metabolic alkalosis present or not. So these all levels, they are mostly sufficient to form the diagnosis of the plus urine potassium levels too. So they are sufficient to make the diagnosis of hypo or hyperkalemia, but here hypokalemia. So yes, these will be the investigations, and mostly there will be of course hypokalemia, less magnesium, less potassium. Magnesium can be less or normal. Okay, in the calcium can be either increase or decrease or even normal too. This can be either increase or decrease, so this will help us in making the diagnosis. Second important, if it is not sufficient, we go for plasma renin levels. Now what is the purpose of this plasma renin levels? What it does is that it is increased in all causes of hypokalemia, except it is decreased when there is a hyper aldosteronism primary or secondary, or there is mineralocorticoid receptor increased stimulation. So these are the conditions which plasma renin levels are low. Thirdly, now we see the electrolytes within the urine. In the urine, we first see urine potassium levels. Now it is very important. Urine potassium levels, if they tell us that whether it's GIT loss causing hypokalemia or renal loss causing hypokalemia. So if a patient is having potassium in the urine, increase means greater than 30 millimole per 24 hours per liter. Fine, in 24 hours this much is the urine output. Then what will it suggest? That it will suggest that the patient is having renal losses. So kidney is the cause of potassium hypokalemia. But what if is this potassium is less than 20 millimole per 24 hours urine output? Then what will happen, that we'll see that it is the GIT loss of potassium or extra renal loss. GIT loss, and more specifically we'll see that it tells us that it's extra renal loss. Fine. And other electrolyte that we measure in the urine is the urine chloride levels. Now this urine chloride levels show that whether it is because of vomiting that causing loss or not. So because if the patient is having vomiting, then the chloride levels in the urine will be low. And if the chloride levels in urine are low, they suggest that patient is having severe vomiting that cause. So why? Because when you vomit, the acid from the stomach gets lost along with HCl, chloride is lost, so less chloride will appear in urine. However, if the chloride is appearing more, then it will suggest that it is either diuretic, loop or thiazide that is causing the hypokalemia, or there is some renal damage, renal tubular damage that is causing. So fine, these are some of the investigations. Plus we will take the ECG of that patient, and ECG will show us the characteristic findings. I'll write here. ECG findings will be QT interval prolonged, first T wave flattened, then later T wave will become inverted. Fine. And in severe cases, ST segment depression will also be seen on the ECG. Fine. So we'll go for ECGs, plus we'll perform ABGs, and we'll see pH and bicarb levels. So we perform these ABGs just to check whether metabolic acidosis is present or not. Fine. So this is the whole of the investigations that we'll perform in that patient. Moving on, that how we will treat that patient. Fine. So for treatment purpose, now treatment is very easy. I've already explained you before that whenever there is a disease that is because of many of the systemic causes, then the first step of our management is mostly that we treat the underlying cause. So first step of our management will be that we will treat the underlying cause. Secondly, we'll stop, I repeat, we'll stop all those medications that can cause hypokalemia. Then moving on, thirdly, what we'll do for the patient, that now since there is hypokalemia, or we will replace the potassium levels. So firstly we'll give oral potassium chloride, fine, and this oral potassium chloride is that for every 10 milliequivalent of potassium chloride given, there will be a rise of zero point 0.1 milliequivalent per liter of potassium ions levels. And if the patient is having renal failure, then of course there will be less excretion, so these level can be even more than 0.1. You can say more than 0.1 levels can be present, fine. Now while giving oral potassium chloride, what we do is that we monitor the potassium levels of the patient after administration. Why? To avoid